Hello, I'm Pip Roberts. I own a studio in Bristol called Now Studio, which is where Laura Taylor is currently seated. She is my body for movement today because my body isn't working so well. So if you would like a visual clue, that's what Laura's very luckily here to provide for us whilst I can't. So yoga to explore emotions is what we're here for today. It's an invitation to begin to settle into your skin and get a sense of what's going on for you within, okay? And it's about being with the truth of whatever's going on for you in this moment. Emotions it's a massive spectrum. Beyond emotions as well, when we're feeling in our body, there's other sensations, other subtleties that we might experience. So, allow yourself to feel into all of the life that's within you, I guess. Every little bit. So in a moment, we will press play on the playlist. I recommend pressing play on the first track and making sure that your Spotify is not on shuffle. So in 3, 2, 1, play. And then I'm going to take a little moment to find ourselves really settled. I understand we're all at home. And so, home has life within it quite often. If there's something on the floor that is annoying to you, you need to pick up that sock. If you need to shut the door, close the window, turn the lights low, light that candle, maybe have a little wiggle into your own body. Whatever you need to do to find yourself settling into practice, go with that now. Okay, so taking a few moments just for you to find that motion, to begin to settle. And then in time, maybe you begin to just move a little. Once you've dealt with all of the admin of life, you might begin to move a little. Just notice how the body wants to move today. Any parts of you want to roll. Maybe there's a lengthen out. Beautiful. Just giving yourself space and time to be, allowing yourself to settle. So within this practice, I said similar yesterday, I'm going to say similar today. All of your feelings, anything that comes up, it's always completely valid. All feelings that any of us ever have, these little messages from our body, they're always valid, okay? We're not looking for anything in particular other than the truth of what's there for you in this now. And these feelings, these emotions are often energy in motion. Something quite often can be kind of held in your body. But when you're ready to allow it to move through, it can begin to move through. So allow these feelings to move through without kind of grabbing them and holding on to them and really identifying with them. Similarly, we don't need to tell ourselves stories about where they're from, or indeed where they're coming from, where they're going to, why they're here, why are they here now? None of that matters, okay? So just allow yourself to notice, be this as casual observer as you can be with your own body. It's a challenge sometimes, but allow everything to move through you, okay? And this is really important. If everything becomes a little overwhelming at any point, because feelings and emotions, when they come through, can be, okay? This is part of the human condition. If it's too much, if you've got your eyes closed, open your eyes and take a long exhale, okay? And stay like that, really connected to outside of you for a little while. until maybe you're ready to go back in, or there is also a page on the Good Grief website with resources that can help you if you feel it's all too much. Okay. Hopefully we'll all be cool, but that's just a little warning. Okay. So let's begin with our breath. This is what we're going to journey with today. So let's bring our hands to our lower ribs. And today's practice is going to be, it's going to be largely horizontal. Okay. There's not particularly active. It's definitely towards the restorative kind of scale of yoga. So give yourself time to settle here. Your hands are resting on your lower rib cage. Your thumbs are coming around the back of your rib cage. And you're simply going to breathe in and out through the nose here. Really simple. And feel into that breath. This breath that is a huge tool for transformation. Each inhale that arrives with you, it arrives full of prana, full of life force, full of chi. And each exhale, it lets it go. Begin to feel into that exchange perhaps that's happening. Hands are still waiting there, just resting on the lower ribs. They're doing their magic whilst they rest there. You just need to breathe and be in your body for a moment. So as the inhale arrives, it feeds your body. And when the exhale leaves, it takes things that were once part of you, actually part of you, part of your cells, part of your body, and it takes them off and out back into the universe. And this is always happening within our body. We're always releasing things back to the earth, back to the air, always going on. There's this transformation, in fact, of each and every one of us that means that every single part of us, I think except our teeth, our enamel, changes every 7 years. Okay. I find that a really emotional thing all on its own. Like, we're not the people we were 7 years ago, physically, in these bodies that we identify so much with. And this exhale, it's all part of our transformation. That is the inhale. But it's there, this beautiful rhythm of transformation that's there constantly. Really easy to tap into, really easy to feel. And so now as your hands are resting on this point on your ribs, naturally, whilst I've been talking, your breath has rummaged further deep in your body. Your diaphragm's awakened. And perhaps the breath is even more in the back and the sides of the body than it usually is. Maybe a bit in the front too. But just your hands resting there have allowed you probably in that time to find this fuller, deeper breath. This deeper transformation. Just there. Really simple. So sensing into that inhale and that exhale. And when you feel ready to move, everything in this practice, by the way, is totally an invitation. You don't have to do any of it. Okay, if something feels really nourishing and you're not quite ready to leave it, stay with that. If something doesn't feel right for you and your anatomy, maybe don't do it, okay? But in time, we might find our way to all fours. And perhaps when we get there, perhaps naturally our bodies start to move through some familiar shapes. Maybe there's just finding steadiness, hands and knees on the earth. There's no hurry at all as well to any of this today. Proper Sunday speed, okay. And when you find yourself there, just notice how the body wants to move. If it wants to move even. Maybe into the movement that's already there in that stillness. That breath. Maybe you can feel your heartbeat, your pulse, maybe where your hands meet the earth. A little sense into your own aliveness. And in a moment, we're going to start to take a fish kind of movement through the spine. So for this, it's quite an unusual movement. And it's not the classical fish pose from yoga. It moves like a fish does through water. Okay, so perhaps a hand comes to your tailbone to start with. So you come out with all fours and find yourself on a tripod. And you just begin to be able to sense a little bit more into where that tailbone is, because loads of us, brackets, most of us aren't so connected to it. And then we're going to begin to let that tailbone move side to side, okay? Like a dog wags its tail. Take it slow, less excited puppy, and, and just a gentle pace. That tailbone oscillating left to right, right, left. And then allow the rest of your spine to begin to relax so that that movement of the tailbone begins to slowly make its way up the spine. And if you keep your head out about the same level as the rest of your spine, so don't drop your head, keep your head raised up, then maybe that movement through the spine continues all the way up into the neck. And it's all starting with that tailbone. Snakes also move like this. Okay. And it can be quite challenging to allow this oscillation to happen, especially if we're really practiced and super habituated in cows and cats and things. So let the spine snake or eel or move like a fish. You'll find the tempo that works for you. It might be fast, it might be slower, but it starts at one end and maybe part of the spine is going one way and another part the other. And how's that breath doing now? This process of transformation within your body still there? When we have explored this fish, this eel, this snaking movement through the spine, we might release from that left to right maneuver and allow ourselves to move in all directions if we want to. So maybe the shoulders and the hips roll as well. Everything moving in its own time. There's no wrong way to do this, by the way. You definitely don't need a visual clue from Laura as to what you need to be doing. Not for this. Feel it in your own body, feel it in your own tissues, and let your body guide you. In fact, may I suggest that for this practice, we stay as internal as possible. So feel in your body. If you need a visual clue, take a look at the screen. But hopefully my verbal guidance is enough with the feelings that come from your own body. We're going to make our way back towards a child's pose in a moment. In your moment. So when you feel really ready. So the hips will draw back towards the heels. You might bring a cushion or a blanket between the hips and the heels. If they feels it wants a bit of support, you might put something underneath your head. One thing we are going to do when we get there, though, is bring the palms together and bend the elbows so that hands move towards the back of the neck. If that feels all right. If that doesn't feel good for you, any shoulder things going on, don't worry about it. But here within the child's pose, can we sense back into the breath? How does the breath move through you here? And find yourself a vessel for the breath here. You, a vessel for the breath. Nothing else to do but breathe. And we know that with each breath, our body changes. We've talked about that already today. Okay. Feel free in these postures to allow this evolution to happen within your own body, this transformation, this transmutation. Okay. Nothing is fixed. Okay. So if it feels like you're drawn towards something else, go with it. Okay. But just as I said yesterday, can we be aware of whether we're moving towards something? If our body's guiding us towards maybe space or, I don't know, whatever's there. I don't want to put words in your bodies, basically, whatever's there. Or are you moving away from something? Is there something that you don't want to feel? And it's okay. It's okay, whatever is happening with both of those things, okay? But it's an interesting thing to bring into our practice, to begin to notice, are we moving away or towards? Are we avoiding or grasping? Okay. When we're ready to feel the feelings that we're maybe moving away from, we'll be able to feel them then. This isn't a push, okay? This isn't a practice where we're forcing ourselves to feel stuff. Quite the opposite. It's an opening towards feeling. Okay. And we'll all take it our own way, at our own pace. All your feelings are valid. Option within your child's pose to bring your arms underneath you and give yourself a hug. So we've opened up, arms behind. And now maybe we rise up a little, wrap our arms around ourselves or towards ourselves. Maybe they don't go all the way around. And give yourself a little bit of a hug, just as you are. And exhales are such an interesting part of our breath. The longer our exhale is, the more our nervous system tends to soothe itself. So allow those exhales to be long. If there's a sound, if there's a big breath, a scream, anything that wants to come through with that exhale, a big sigh, let it move out. This again, it's the energies, emotions, it's emotion, okay? It's letting things move through you and out. So get as noisy and weird as you'd like to, okay? This is one of the joys of practicing online. We can't hear each other, right? So don't hold back if there's something that wants to move out and move through. open that door for it if you're ready. And just a reminder that there's no pressure to move on or into any of these shapes that I'm offering, okay? If you find yourself somewhere and it feels deeply nourishing, stay there. No pressure. But there's an open invitation for you to creep out onto your belly when you're ready, so that you begin to find yourself laid on the floor. Where we'll only be for a moment or two before we move towards a sphinx. So elbows will come underneath the shoulders, palms will be out in front. Beautiful. Laura has done a very beautiful thing here with her blanket as well. Anybody whose hips feel the pinch of the floor, is that a good way of putting it? Or just want a little bit more cushioning, a blanket underneath the hips and the belly is good. You might also put your cushion a little higher up your ribs here, so that the breastbone is a little bit supported. But as your hands land on the ground, can you get a sense almost of drawing yourself forwards? Or it's like you're trying to lengthen rather than lift up. Okay, so this is about exploring the space inside yourself, the length that you can create from the tips of your toes all the way up to the crown of your head. And I'd love us to come to this with softness, you know, all that softness that we just had in our fish pose, all of that movability that we've found within our body. Bring that back in, bring it with you. Okay, so even though we're in Sphinx, even though we're in this wonderfully long extended form that maybe is a little bit, a touch more energetic, should we put it that way, than where we've been, can we still come with this real softness, embodying that softness towards ourselves, so that anything that comes up, again, we greet it with softness, not toughness. You might also explore rolling the head and the neck. Perhaps, this is my favorite, the tongue sticks out really far as it can go. How long can you make it whilst you roll the head and the neck? And just feel into that. You're beginning to find maybe a little bit of play, exploration within this. That softness beginning to come through. Maybe here there's even a roar, a lion's breath, with the tongue. Letting that exhale transform and transmute even more. We're going to move from Sphinx, where we are right now. We're going to move towards a twisted Sphinx. So the right arm is going to thread underneath the left. You might love, this is where the pillow really comes in, a pillow underneath the forehead. So the neck has just a little bit more support. So we begin to offer out this space at the back of the body and soften to the earth. And it isn't a question of how far can your right arm reach. Can we keep a sense maybe of the body staying fairly straight to the floor? If there's a little twist, it's all okay, but the intention behind this form is that the body's towards the floor and the arm crosses underneath it, rather than it being a twist, which we'll move to in a moment. We're offering out this space at the back of the body again. Oh. You might want to explore rolling the palm. So the palm was up originally, and then there'll be one way that's really easy to turn, probably the thumb moving down towards the hips and then back up. But again, this isn't a place of stillness, but a still point around which you might explore very gentle movements, very slow and considered. Allowing yourself to really be with whatever's coming up for you. It's all valid, okay? Can we sense into the passage of air as it makes its dance through your body? Maybe we can feel that air beyond the lungs, even beyond the respiratory system that we're taught so much about at school. This is how we breathe. But nature has kind of a few blueprints that it likes to use repeatedly. So our cells are also breathing. There's still that respiratory exchange happening within our cells. The lungs are just there to turn it back out to the universe from inside of you. This cellular breath. Each part of you expanding and condensing just as your lungs do. Just as in fact the universe does, this expansion and condensing. Almost a universal breath, right? So in a moment, I'm going to open out towards the next transition. So your right arm is threaded underneath you right now. You're going to roll your left shoulder back behind you and draw your knees up towards your belly, and then lengthen that left arm out. So you'll open it out into a twist, looking up towards the ceiling in your own time. And knees may float off the floor. The feet don't have to stay grounded. You might explore finding a twist that suits your body today. It can be really nice to feel into a sense of support. So if your knees or your shoulders are floating, maybe something comes and meets it. That something might be a blanket or a cushion. Call in the support that you have around you. Okay. This is the very embodiment of calling in support, right? When we do it in our practice, we get good at doing that in life as well off the mat. Where does it feel like you need something right now? Bring it in. And then allow yourself to soften to that breath. To soften to that breath. This rhythm of transformation that flows through your whole body. Every single cell. Allow them to release what they don't need to be holding on to. And let the exhales carry that out. Transforming and transmuting you with each breath. And know that even when this practice is finished, your breath is still with you, okay? This huge tool for transformation is still with you. So staying with the inner forms, those inner currents, those sensations that exist within you. When you feel ready, you might draw yourself towards a fetal position and give yourself a big hug. Maybe you actually curl up into an entire ball and arms wrap around the knees. And again, connect with that exhale. Anything that it wants to move out, to release. Any sounds at all that are really true to you, let them move through. It might just be a slightly deeper exhale. There's no pressure to perform. And in your own time, we'll meet back in Sphinx where we've been already. Okay, so if right now the nourishment from fetal position is what you need, don't feel any pressure. Okay, so the Sphinx, elbows grounded, palms out in front. That gentle energy of the hands grounding and lengthening from the tips of the toes through to the top of the head. And find that softness again. Maybe we come back to that head roll. That sticking out of the tongue that helps all of our jaw unclench and finds that beautiful release down the sides of the neck as well as anywhere else you need it around there. But this is a magic tool for unclenching jaws. Anybody who holds their jaw, if you stick your tongue out, you can't clench your jaw at the same time. The anatomy is made so the two cannot happen at the same time. It's clever engineering. So if you've been holding back on words, you're feeling a little clenched in the jaw, maybe stick your tongue out as far as you can. And just see how it feels for you. It's also a really good thing to do in the mirror in the bathroom in the morning, just because mornings are generally a little tougher than the rest of the day, I think. And seeing yourself with your tongue sticking out as far as possible is a thing of beauty to make you laugh. So we're going to go with the other side with this in a moment. This time the left arm is going to thread underneath. Maybe we're thinking about the chest lowering straight towards the floor rather than there being a twist. No big deal if there is a bit of a twist, but the twist is next. And find that support for your head. If this isn't comfortable for anybody, for any reason as well, you can totally just take the arm across your body, seated, as I have been doing. Again, come feeling it into that cellular breath. Into the breath of the lungs, the whole breath of the whole body. This shift and this transmutation. Allowing your body just to be with the breath and seeing what unfolds from here. What moves through. On and out. Steady with yourself. No pushing here. Just an allowing. And allowing yourself to be with what is happening in this moment right now. We might investigate that roll through the arm. Feeling into that. I say roll through the arm, the hand turns and you begin to appreciate perhaps that intrinsic anatomy of just maybe the thumb revolving towards the floor, but how far up your arm you can feel into that. Or the tissues and the webs that hold you, that fold in and around each other, spiraling and looping through you. In a moment, we're going to open out towards the twist on the other side. So the left arm is threaded under. The right shoulder is going to move behind you. And the knees will bend up and you'll find a little bit more support from the ground. And once you're there, take your time. Take your time to settle, to work out how your body wants to be in that twist. Knees can be higher or lower. What feels right for your body? And again, call in that support. Call in support if you feel you need it. It might just be a blanket coming over your body. Especially good if it's a heavy one. It holds a little weight and it soothes your nervous system. It might be a cushion sliding in under your shoulder that's lifted. It might be a little bit of massage on your face, on your chest. Call in that support. Listening to your body's whispers. And again, noticing if there's anything that wants to be carried out with that exhale. Anything that wants to move through. Allow it all to happen when you're ready for it. Even though right now there's that still point, you're still transforming. That gentle impermanence of humans is still there. This change, the shift. In your own time, you might make your way towards your chosen position of rest. Perhaps it's fetal position, perhaps it was that hug in, maybe it's classic corpse pose, savasana, laid on your back. Again, go where your body feels like it wants to be. Call in support from your cushions if you need to, if you want to. Even the simple act of putting a cushion or a bolster behind the knees can soften up a savasana. Or landing both soles of the feet flat on the floor and having the knees bent so you find yourself in constructive rest. Any option that works for you. You might be bundled up into a ball. We're going to give ourselves time to rest. We're going to give ourselves a little time now for that practice to settle. And once we've had a rest, I'll be here to answer any questions that have come up for you. Anything you want to share. No pressure to share if you don't want to. But don't think that this is the rest and then we've gone, okay? Got about 10 minutes to talk about anything that came through, if you'd like to. But for now, rest with that knowledge. Let your body be breathed. Effortless breath. Rolling in and out. Let it move through you. The practice settling. perhaps you allow the body to find a breath that moves a little deeper again. And perhaps as that breath arrives a little deeper, it might wash out with a little sound. And if that felt good or needed in any way, maybe there's another. We might begin to explore movements. We'll draw ourselves very gently out of wakefulness. Of course, we're all at home, so there's no need to do that if you'd rather stay resting a little longer. Sometimes when we find the floor and find rest, we realise how much it's needed. But if you'd like to close the practice with me, you might begin to make your way into movement. There's no pressure to be anywhere else but in your body though. And eventually you might find yourself seated. Let's land there with a hug for ourselves. This hugging, this holding as well isn't only a hug. It's not just a hug. It's also a gentle stimulation of some of the meridian lines that we've been working with today. Your lungs. And when you feel ready, hands can come and meet at your heart. And take a moment to thank this body that's carrying you at the moment, this body, for all the support that it gives you and all the lessons it holds. And thank you all for practicing today. Yeah, if you've got any questions, I'd love to see them. And I will read them out. If you put them in the Q&A, that's really helpful because it doesn't move so fast as the chat. Thank you very much, Laura. Thank you for being my body today. I've hurt my foot, so I can't really move very well at the moment. It's elevated beyond the screen. There is a Good Grief resources page. There is a link to that in the chat. If any of you have this brought anything up, if you're feeling really overwhelmed, there is a really good list of support that you can turn to there. So if you are in a pickle, it's also really good, even if you're not in a pickle. But yeah, it's a fabulous resource that's there. So, question about practicing. I used to practice regularly, but came out of practice. This is a hugely popular amble that people take in life. I feel like we get good at practicing and then we get less good at practicing. So that's cool. The first thing to notice is when you first come back to practice, it feels monumental and you wonder why you've been away. It's almost worth having a break so that when you come back, it can just feel so magical. Gentle and meditative. I would say mostly, yeah, gentle, meditative. Hatha is definitely towards the more gentle. This work we've been doing today is embodied. That might be something to search for. I do offer online practices. If you go to my website, which is piproberts.com, it's separate to Now Studio Bristol, then I have a new online on-demand thing launching on the 4th, so next week. But yeah, I do lots of things online. But if you enjoyed this slowness and this feeling, you might want somatics or embodiment. Yeah, just to Google searching yoga is really difficult. I appreciate that. I'm just reading the chat. Oh, a yoga move for insomnia and overthinking. I have I have real issues with both of those two things myself, Lisa. So I feel for you on those. On my blog, I think I had some yoga poses to help you sleep. I'll check on that. I did have one at one point. I'm pretty sure it's still there. If not, there's definitely a square on my Instagram, which is Pip Roberts __ that has, I think there's 6 different poses. The biggest changer for insomnia that I use is legs up the wall, which is the elevated rest that I've been stuck in with my foot all week. So you just lie with your bum against the wall or the bed head and stick your feet up the wall. Yeah, that would be it is my go-to, but that's super simple. Are we all good? Oh, Sam, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Much love to you as well. Oh God. If anybody has, there's more questions, sorry. Oh, Susie, I had exactly the same problem after I lost my mum, who was also actually called Susie. Yes, brains can't settle. And that's why this is the yoga practice that makes sense for me now, because of the speed of my head. In this practice, or these practices of embodiment, it's not about being in the head, it's about coming back to the body. And I really think that that's why this kind of really felt sense yoga is something that's transformed me and my practice, as opposed to really pose orientated things. So it's horrifically normal, I think. Yeah, it's horrifically normal, I'm afraid. And time just means that it doesn't get any better, but we begin to learn to cope, right? So yeah, I hope time finds that coping for you, Susie. I'm up on asana forms. I find they get in the way of your suggestions. Ooh, that's a brain body thing, isn't it? Instead of thinking it, start to feel it, I guess. Come with a beginner's mind as well is the biggest change that we can have, I think, especially when we're exploring embodiment. Like our body changes every 7 years. This isn't the body I had when I was 21, 7 years ago. So come and feel into this body that you've got today and get a sense of where it's going to, as opposed to feeling your way or pushing yourself into form that you think is correct. Yeah, it's a really good question. It's a constant battle, basically. Embodiment, as soon as you hear the name of something, you've got this cellular recognition, in fact, of what it looks like. But if you can stay in your body and move into it rather than in your head and move to it, you'll find that asana forms can still be really useful. Yeah, so I'm not anti-asana. I'm anti thinking that there's a correct way to do an asana, which is possibly a very different thing. I always feel like a grandma when I'm on Zoom. Cool. Okay, people. I think we're all good. I hope we're all good. I send my love to everybody who is on a journey with grief at the moment. Yeah. And thank you. And thank you again, Laura. And enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Bye.